and to discuss the liberation of the villages in Nagorno-Karabakh, which is part of Azerbaijan. I'm joined by Ahmad Shahidov, who's the head of Azerbaijan's Institute for Democracy and Human Rights. Ahmed, thank you very much for joining us again on ANews.
Thank you.
We've just been listening to the news about the newly liberated villages in Fuzuli, Jabrail, Kojavend and Zongalin. What can you tell us about this new situation?
Yes, greetings from Baku. The news situation is so the tension on front line remains because Armenian armed forces continue firing on Azerbaijani positions and civil settlements in gross violation of the humanitarian ceasefire reached between two parts. So at noon on October 19, yesterday, Armenian armed forces fired on a cotton factory in Tartar region. As a result, a large fire broke out in the factory, and Armenia violated second ceasefire agreement using special military aircrafts. Violating the ceasefire agreement reached for the second time. The Armenian side once again shown that the official Yerevan is not interested in achieving peace in the region, because the shelling of civilians and cities by the Armenian armed forces after the second humanitarian ceasefire agreement is another clear example of barbarism and shows that the ceasefire calls of the Armenian leadership are nothing but hypocrisy, because Azerbaijan, showing its goodwill based on humanism principles, agreed to humanitarian ceasefire from 18 October, but Armenian armed forces immediately after that declared ceasefire, starting from even 10 minutes past midnight, fired at the Jabrail city and the Jabrail region village liberated from the occupation located along the river Araz using mortars and artillery. And the armed forces of Armenia, violating the ceasefire, shelled Azerbaijan's positions using the large caliber weapons at the border of two states in the direction of Gadabay and Tavuz regions of Azerbaijan. And the gross violation of humanitarian ceasefire by Armenia already for the second time after its formal declaration demonstrates the continuation of the aggressive policy of Armenia against Azerbaijan and its reluctance to the negotiated settlement of the conflict. It's also an open disrespect by Armenia to the mediators' efforts as well, who have been engaged in finding an accord of the sides to the humanitarian ceasefire. Sure, Azerbaijan remains committed to the humanitarian ceasefire today. However, Azerbaijan reserves its right to take countermeasures to protect its civilians and positions as well. That's why yesterday and today, Azerbaijani army liberated several villages occupied by Armenia for the last 27 years. It was some villages of Fuzuli, Jabrail, Kojavend region, and mainly city of Fuzuli. And today, the president of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, announced in his address to Azeri nation, declared about these victories of Azerbaijani army. But now is question how we can trust the Armenian side today, because Armenian armed forces used their fighter aircraft to bomb Azerbaijani armed forces positions in blatant violation of the humanitarian truce. So the ceasefire agreement reached between the sides has lost its validity again. The Armenian armed forces do not adhere to the humanitarian truce, and hypocritical calls for a humanitarian ceasefire must address these war crimes by Armenia. And Armenia has a goal in violating the ceasefire. We should mention it as well, because first of all, they want, after the several defeats on battleground, they want to create fear and panic among the Azerbaijani population, and this is the first reason why they fire on civil settlements in Azerbaijan. They want to break the will of Azerbaijani citizens to fight, but they cannot achieve this because the people of Azerbaijan have been waiting for this day, for the return of Nagorno-Karabakh for many years, and we are ready to die in this way. The second goal is to provoke Azerbaijan side. if you pay attention, you will see that the Armenian side has been firing rockets from the territory of Armenia, from basically from the Vardanis region in the recent days. Armenia, which wants the Azerbaijani side to destroy these fire points, is trying to involve third countries in the conflict. In particular, Armenia wants to see Russia as an active party in this conflict, but Azerbaijan army operates in its territory, in Nagorno-Karabakh, and all successful military operations are going on in our territories, in Nagorno-Karabakh and in other occupied territories. We never target any even military positions, firing points in the territorial Republic of Armenia. And Azerbaijan conducts military operation on its territory, I mean in the occupied Nagorno-Karabakh and surrounding areas, and this is a sovereign right of Azerbaijan, because according to international law, every country has the right to protect its borders, its territory. And in fact, in recent days, there are a lot of calls for peaceful negotiation of this conflict as well. And some international organizations, world countries, they are calling the both sides to stop the fire and to start the peace talks, peaceful negotiation of this conflict. In fact, it's possible to resolve this conflict peacefully, sure, but for the last 30 years, Azerbaijan has always been a supporter of peace and actively participated in the negotiations in the format of the OSCE Minsk group. However, Armenia is trying to gain time by prolonging the negotiation process indefinitely and maintaining the status quo. And there have been no positive results, unfortunately.
So
no
obviously
positive results for.
Obviously, the provocations, as you say, have many goals to them. Trying to involve other countries in the conflict, which so far Turkey and Russia have both stayed well outside of that scope. If Armenia is able to involve other countries, Iran or whoever, then this will evolve into a huge regional crisis. But at the moment, the focus is entirely within the sovereign territory of Azerbaijan, if I understand correctly.
Yes. Yeah. By spreading false information, fake news about the so-called participation, any mercenaries, any external soldiers in the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh, this is fake news, and by spreading these fake news, Armenian authorities try to involve third countries, and they are calling for their allies, I mean Russia and other European countries, to be part in this conflict and to stand next to Armenia to fight against Azerbaijan. But there is no any evidence, any fact about the participation of external soldiers. We are 10 million country, which we have exactly 100,000 soldiers. We have our volunteers who are ready to join the to army. So it's there is no necessary to invite and to involve any external soldiers to this conflict, because Azerbaijan successfully operates and continues this successful military operation for liberation its territories. And during the last 20 years, we have liberated more than, I don't remember exact count, more than 30, 40 villages, and several very important points. But anyway, I think there is a chance for peaceful negotiation of this conflict. But unfortunately, there have been no positive results for 30 years. And today, Azerbaijan is trying to resolve this conflict through war. And those countries and international organizations trying to stop the fire should first call on Armenia to withdraw its army from the occupied territories of Azerbaijan, because this is required by 4 UN Security Council resolutions. And then I think it's possible to start peace talks with the participation of mediating countries. But however, I think Turkey must be among the mediators as well, because Azerbaijan has put forward this condition, because until now the countries that are co-chairs of the OSCE Minsk group have not always been able to remain neutral. In general, the basic principles of peace talks should include the issue of Azerbaijan's territorial integrity as well. So I think in order to start peace talks immediately between the parties, it's necessary to unequivocally accept Azerbaijan's territorial integrity and withdraw Armenian troops from occupied Azerbaijani lands. And I consider Turkey's participation in these peace talks very important. And Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev has also a clear position on this issue. He said that Turkey should also take part in these talks.
I want to ask you something about the OSCE, particularly about the co-chairs. As you just mentioned that some of them are showing a bias. How is it that they're able to continue negotiations and at the same time show overt support, whilst at the same time accusing other countries of not doing the right thing? And more importantly, what I really wanted to ask you was knowing what the legal situation is. So the legal situation that Azerbaijan is a sovereign territory. How can, for example, France support Armenia's role against that?
You know, after first ceasefire agreement reached in May 1994 between Armenia and Azerbaijan, the set up OSCE Minsk group mediating format, which will mediating between Armenia and Azerbaijan in a peaceful negotiation of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. But unfortunately, last 30 years, and this OSCE Minsk group consists of 3 co-chairs from US, France, and Russia. Unfortunately, all co-chair countries sometimes support occupation and occupying policy of Armenia, and after clashes started on Sunday, September 27, the French President Emmanuel Macron even criticized the Azerbaijani military operations for liberating its lands, which is the internationally recognized territories and sovereign right of Azerbaijan to liberate its territories. And so French president criticized Azerbaijan and said that it's impossible to launch military operation in Nagorno-Karabakh and stand next to Armenia. And only Russia, however, keeps its neutrality in this conflict. And a couple days ago, U.S. Secretary of State Pompeo said, expressed his support to Armenian people, I would say, in so-called defense from the attacks of Azerbaijan. All these views, all these statements are inconsistent of the format of OSCE Minsk group, and it's against the principle of international law that even US and France expect their support in international arena. But that is why Azerbaijan put forward new condition for starting peace negotiations. You know, Azerbaijan right now continues very successful military operations, and Armenian authorities, in particular Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, calls to all state leaders, all presidents and prime minister to, ask Azerbaijan to stop the fire and to start a peaceful negotiation. But if we are continuing our military operations and liberating our lands, why should we stop? And what is the reason to stop these operations? And how will be the negotiation process if the situation will be the same before these clashes? So this OSCE Minsk group, so-called mediating format, will continue to prolong this time 30 years more, and it's against international law, against our interests. So we should or rechange the format of OSCE Minsk Group, or to have Turkey in these talks as well. And it's a very clear position of Azerbaijan, and this is a very important issue for us to have Turkey in this negotiation process. And the main principles, the base principles of this peace talk should be the territorial integrity of Republic of Azerbaijan and restoring its state borders recognized by international community, by UN Security Council resolutions. After that, we can start peace talks. We can discuss the technical details of returning of Azerbaijani refugees to their homes, and together living of Armenians and Azerbaijanis in Nagorno-Karabakh, to have transport corridor for Armenia across the Azerbaijani territory to Russia, and other technical details we can discuss after having this negotiation. But the main principle is to withdraw all external troops, I mean Armenian military units, Armenian army from occupied Nagorno-Karabakh and other Azerbaijani lands. This is first precondition of Azerbaijan. And the second is to accept the territorial integrity of Azerbaijan by all sides, by Armenia and all mediating countries. They should accept the territorial integrity and of Azerbaijan and withdraw Armenian troops from these occupied territories. Then we can start peace talks and discuss the very technical details.
Yes.
And I think if the Armenian people, Armenian nation will think very properly, they should press Pashinyan authority to start peace talks with Azerbaijan, and because it's in national interest of Armenia as well. Finally,
absolutely.
Armenia,
it's the interest of both countries, the interests of Azerbaijan,
sure,
interests of Armenia. And it's actually a very simple solution. Very simple solution that they stand back and face up to the rule of law and just respect the sovereign integrity of Azerbaijan. Ahmad Shahidov, thank you very much for joining us this evening on ANews. No doubt we'll talk again in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you so much.